Growing up is realizing that Numberjacks, that innocent little show with superhero numbers, is, in hindsight, a horror series in disguise. Yes, our entire childhood was a lie. The colourful learning was a front. Lurking in each episode were the 5 Meanies, a rogues gallery of bizarre villains so unnerving that they traumatized an entire generation. My generation. Take a look at this post. It proves my point 1,000 times over. I was terrified of spoons until the age of 8 because of that damn thing. I assume they mean Spooky Spoon. It got to the point where if we watched Numberjacks in class, I'd have to get taken out. I hate this show. This is Spooky Spoon PTSD posted years later onto Reddit. It doesn't get realer than that. From silent stalking men in white to maniacal floating heads, the Meanies were the stuff of psychological horror hiding in plain sight. By the end of this video, you might just wonder how a children's show managed to scar all of us so badly, and also why we kinda love it in hindsight. We'll also crown the creepiest Meanie of all, the one who still haunts our dreams. Firstly though, let's meet this cast of childhood nightmare characters. Spooky Spoon, stirring up nightmares. I had a dream when I was 6. I was in a room with Spooky Spoon, who I was terrified of, alone, and she was flying around the room screaming. Ah, good old childhood memories. Now, you might laugh. I mean, how could a pink plastic spoon possibly be scary? But this isn't just any spoon. Spooky Spoon is a sentient, flying, anthropomorphic spoon with big googly eyes, a sly smirk, and a habit of mixing things up for the worse. She's essentially a cackling kitchen utensil gone rogue. The idea of Spooky Spoon sounds absurd. An inside-out spoon with a face, wearing a little necklace, and eyeshadow. But this girl lives to stir up trouble, literally stirring as if the world itself was her cauldron. And boy, does she enjoy it. As the wiki notes, she always feels relaxed when other people are uncomfortable. Spooky Spoon? More like sadistic spoon. Spooky Spoon didn't just cause chaos. She literally rewrote reality. In the episode Getting Heavy, she made heavy things light and light things heavy. In the episode Day to Day, she switched behaviours. A man in a cafe acted like a child at a party, while the children sat at their birthday party silent, expressionless, like they were attending their own mother's funerals.
Having fun? I am.
In the episode Belongings, she scrambled people's clothes and food. Shoes ended up on plates, meals were replaced with tennis gear, and nothing matched. There's a bizarre, uncanny valley that comes with seeing a simple spoon act like a malicious person. It messed with our young brains. You're not meant to see a malicious piece of household cutlery, yet here we are. And it's not just me. There's a trove of comments online about people talking about how much Spooky Spoon freaked them out. One person wrote, I actually liked watching Numberjacks as a kid until I saw Spooky Spoon. I cried for 2 hours. Another commenter responded skeptically, it's a spoon, not scary, only to be met with the retort, but it's talking and flying. Exactly, it's so wrong, it bypasses logic and goes straight to creep out central. Look at this Reddit thread titled, Only I was terrified by Spooky Spoon in my early childhood? It's filled with responses like, same, Spooky Spoon is scary, full stop, and bro, I just googled this because I remember how much this witch used to shizzle me up as a kid. This frickin' spoon is terrifying. Multiple people even had nightmares about Spooky Spoon. One user shared, I hate Spooky Spoon. She gave me a nightmare while I was in a maze with Numberjack 4 and Spooky Spoon chased us. It scared the living shizzle out of me. Another replied in all caps that they had the exact same nightmare. The terror is real, guys. When a generation is collectively dreaming of being hunted by a demonic utensil, you know something about her struck a nerve. Why did Spooky Spoon scare us quite so much? For me, it was the fact that something as harmless and commonplace as a spoon could actually be somewhat threatening. She wasn't that monstrous, just smug, floaty, and always meddling. As a kid, I remember watching her mixing things that didn't belong: food, clothes, people, and I just felt this weird tightness in my chest. Like the world wasn't safe anymore, not even the kitchen. And honestly, I still sometimes do a double take when I see a pink spoon with a curved neck. I once paused mid-stir of a cup of tea because it just looked a little bit too pink. That's the effect she had. Spooky Spoon didn't just break rules, she made you question whether reality was supposed to make sense in the first place. And maybe that's why she stuck with us. Because behind the googly eyes and forced rhymes, she represented the quiet, creeping fear that everything familiar could turn on you. And she laughs in your face while she's doing it. The way to beat Spooky Spoon? Shove her in a dishwasher, according to this user, Big Brain. The NumberTaker. Silent, but terrifying. He's tall, he's pale, he's dressed like a ghostly Victorian undertaker, and he never says a single word. The NumberTaker is their only live-action meanie, a gaunt man in an all-white outfit, top hat, long coat, gloves, the works. As kids, we probably didn't catch the funeral Undertaker reference, but subconsciously, we felt it. This guy was basically death in a white suit. He roams the real world, wordlessly taking your things. Not just objects or numbers, but literally anything that's not nailed down. He'll steal your count of 3, your set of 4, even your toys aren't safe. The scariest part though is his silence. The NumberTaker never speaks or even smiles. He just looms with a dead-eyed stare, often carrying his signature weapon, the number sucker upper, for sucking up numbers and who knows what else. As one fan described him, he is a queer, mysterious, and very ominous man. He's silent and is really the only one that puts a direct threat against the Numberjacks. For a child, that silence was terrifying. It left everything to our imagination. What does he want? Why is he doing this? The show never tells us, and that ambiguity made it 10 times creepier. Psychologically, the NumberTaker played on stranger danger fear. A wordless stranger who shows no emotion, who can appear anywhere and snatch things away without any explanation.
And our brain gain isn't working properly. Hide!
Many of us have never forgotten that uneasy feeling he gave us. There's a whole Reddit thread of now adults commiserating over how the NumberTaker freaked them out. One person confessed, "I literally had a nightmare where the NumberTaker left my TV screen while I was asleep." Just imagine, you doze off after an episode and you dream this tall white-coated figure steps out of the television into your room. Who would have a nightmare about a kids' TV show? Could never be me. Another commenter summed it up simply. The NumberTaker bro. The fact that he would never even say anything. That was enough to scare us witless. His episodes too often had genuinely tense moments. In Being 3 and Into the Teens, he was taking people's 3s and multiplying himself into multiple NumberTakers.
That funny brain game you sent 3, it's turned one NumberTaker into 11 NumberTakers.
Like one of these bad boys wasn't nightmare-inducing enough. When his duplicates turned on each other and hoovered themselves out of existence, you're left with a disturbing implication that the original is basically indestructible. He always comes back for more. Rewatching now, the NumberTaker does kind of feel like a villain from a horror movie. He's essentially a silent horror movie slasher dropped into a kids' TV show. Think Michael Myers, but with a vacuum and a fancy hat. No wonder so many of us were left traumatized. In the end, we could always count on the Numberjacks to defeat him.
I see 0 elephants and a matching number of NumberTakers.
They see me rolling, they hating, patrolling.
But that image of a faceless white figure lurking and stealing things without a word, it's burned into our collective memory. Quick reminder to hit subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Thank you. the shape Japer. Chaos with a grin. At first glance, SJ might seem less scary, a goofy CGI blob that changes shape. But don't be fooled. The shape Japer is a purple sphere, or sometimes cube, with a permanently angry face, a jagged tooth grin, and wild, dilated eyes. Picture an unpredictable, sentient bouncy ball with sharp teeth and a bad attitude. That's the shape Japer. Even though the wiki calls her the easiest villain to defeat, for a lot of kids, she was deeply unsettling. Why? One word: unpredictability. The shape Japer could be anywhere, suddenly transforming your world. She'd turn everyday objects into crazy shapes. She'd make things stretch, shrink, or bounce uncontrollably, with neither rhyme nor reason. One moment, a mop is a normal mop. The next moment, boom, it's 6 foot long.
Oh no!
That kind of reality warping chaos is pure nightmare fuel for a young mind. Again, it might seem like I'm exaggerating, but her behaviour and her design actually hit on a key childhood fear: when familiar things become scary and strange. You get the feeling that the shape Japer had an untapped reservoir of hidden abilities too. This user says that they were not scared of the shape Japer for appearance reasons, but because of its sheer limitless power. This user agreed, saying, "Yup, God knows what this thing could do." The shape Japer did have some limitations. She could never hold a full conversation, her communication is limited to gleeful evil giggles and the occasional lispy phrase.
Go bad!
But her grin more than compensated for her lack of words. Something about that fixed, toothy smile and the way she loves messing with people's reality is just creepy. One poor soul on Reddit admitted that the shape Japer gave them actual nightmares as a kid, and they turned this trauma into this genuinely terrifying piece of fan art that you can see on your screen right now. Now we'll all be having nightmares, yay! In May the Force Be With You, the shape Japer, for reasons known only to herself, decides to stick herself in cube form and go on a rampage. Why? Because a cube has 8 corners.
8 bad! 8 bad!
That's the motive. That's the whole criminal psychology here. Not revenge, not power, not even mild irritation. No, this chaos gremlin woke up, looked at a cube, thought, you know what, that's too many corners, and decided to cause chaos. Even when the Numberjacks foil her, the shape Japer often just makes a weird distorted noise and vanishes, only to return later.
Brain gain!
Cube into sphere! Cube into sphere! Into nothing!
There's never a sense of closure with her. SJ is a wild spirit of chaos that could strike again when you least expect it. Maybe the shape Japer didn't scare you, but it certainly did scare some people. As this not quite fan of the show says, "My mum will never let me live this down. This is my first time confessing this to anyone, but I had frequent nightmares of the shape Japer eating my eye as a small child. I'd straight up shake at the mention of her name. I remember having to leave a class when I was 5ish because they put the Numberjacks on and it was a shape Japer episode. It was my worst fear for a very long time." Looking back, the shape Japer feels like that one friend in school who'd yank the chair out from underneath you just when you're about to sit down. You're so sure that that seat is beneath you, only to find out that reality isn't as solid as you thought as you fall to the ground humiliated. When you're a small child, you rely on the world making sense. Then this purple gremlin comes along and literally breaks the rules of reality. One day the shape Japer will realise just how powerful she really is. And when that day comes, God help us all. The problem Blob. Slimy, grimy, and out of control. The problem Blob is a giant green sticky blob monster with one grotesque guy inside his mouth. Yes, you heard that right.
Look!
Yuck, yucky, yucky!
It's as if the designer said, how gross and unsettling can we make a blob? And then just went for it. He'd then blabber in this garbled gurgle, not real words, just blobby noises, and then splort. He'd spit green slime all over something or someone, causing instant chaos. What made the problem blob psychologically disturbing was partly his appearance, but even more so, it was the implications of his powers. The blob's effects felt biological or even chemical, a kind of creeping contagion, a powerful disease waiting in the wings. Whatever thing his slime would hit started behaving very strangely. Machines malfunctioning, people slipping uncontrollably, objects growing or duplicating. Basically, he'd problemize everything with his toxic slime.
Now what?
Oh no! Backwards and forwards!
As a child, I remember thinking, what if the problem blob slimed me? Would I start doing something crazy against my will? What if I grow another arm? Would I freeze in place? The possibilities were endless and none of them were good. This fan even confessed to having PTSD, writing, "I can vividly remember being terrified when it, the blob, showed up, just making sure I'm not crazy." Rest assured, you're not crazy. Plenty of us felt terror over that damn blob. Indeed, in polls of the scariest Numberjacks villain, the blob often tops the charts. After all, he's essentially a slime monster straight out of Ghostbusters, but plopped into a show for preschoolers. Think of episodes like Going Wrong, Going Long, or the dreaded Lurgy. Even the titles hint at something dreadful. There's an episode where everything starts from the beginning again and again, as if time resets, thanks to his blob.
3, 4.
Oh no!
1, 2, 3, 4.
6 has been blobbed and he keeps going back to the beginning.
1.
The characters often looked genuinely distressed by the blob's chaos. Ultimately, they did always manage to clean up the goo or zap him with brain gain, solving the problem, at least for now. The battle may have been won, but not the war, as, like all Meanies, he never stayed gone for good.
He's getting very angry.
He's going into overload.
He won't be making any more trouble for a while.
The fear with Problem Blob was gooey unpredictability, similar to the fear induced, in fact, by the shape Japer. Unlike the puzzler's structured games or the NumberTaker's targeted thievery, the blob was chaotic evil, mindless, gibbering mayhem. You couldn't reason with it or predict what trouble it would spit out next. It's almost funny, in a dark way, how many of us still have issues around what's essentially a pile of slime. We usually think of blobs as goofy, think flubber or silly putty, but this one was deeply unsettling. We'll give the final words to this poor, traumatized Numberjacks fan. I had a nightmare once when I was lying in bed and I looked up and the problem blob was on the wall just above my head. He stuck his eye out and then jumped down onto my face and into my ear. I woke up screaming. The Puzzler. Riddles, rhymes, and really creepy times. Visually and conceptually, the Puzzler is downright freaky. He's a floating head with moving facial features. Sometimes his eyes, nose and mouth would drift around like pieces of a sliding puzzle. That's some high-grade uncanny imagery for a 5-year-old. He's basically a surreal talking head who can warp reality into a Rubik's Cube of problems. A TV Tropes recap notes that in one case, the puzzler trapped Numberjack 5 in a bubble and implied he might kill her if she failed to solve his riddle. Yes, a murder threat in a preschool show. The puzzler, he doesn't play around.
Find 2 numbers that add to 5. Then I will let 5 out alive.
The unspoken message, get it wrong and 5 might never escape. As a kid watching this, my heart was in my throat. The possibility that one of my beloved Numberjacks could be unalived by this talking head was genuinely terrifying. The cultural impact of the puzzler on Naughty's kids cannot be overstated. To this day, people talk about how he sent them running out of the room. One now grown viewer recalls, "I was only scared of the puzzler as a kid. I freaking came running out of the TV room whenever that floating middle-aged head was on. That reaction speaks for all of us who promptly noped out whenever the puzzler appeared. Another person described the puzzler, jokingly misnaming him the Riddler, as literally the creepiest thing I've seen for a while. Its eyes bulge through the glasses, and just the way it looks. Another fan shares, had a dream where the puzzler floated towards me and then I woke up. That was the whole dream. Short, but not so sweet. The puzzler doesn't even need to do anything in a nightmare. His mere presence is enough to keep you awake. The puzzler's episodes were some of the tensest. In Out, Shake It All About, he debuts by trapping Numberjacks 3 and 5 in one of his giant transparent puzzle bubbles and making them solve a pattern to escape.
Look at these numbers. You will see we're missing one. What can it be? Work it out and then tell me, or never ever will you go free.
Come on! What number goes in the middle?
The psychological trick that the puzzler plays is making you feel helpless and trapped. As a kid, you might not solve the puzzle immediately, so you sit there in anxiety as the clock ticks, feeling the same desperation as the Numberjacks. It's a recipe for stress and fear, wrapped up in what's ostensibly an educational segment. In hindsight, the puzzler is a brilliantly conceived villain, part tormentor, part teacher. He forced us to think under pressure, which is great for a learning show. But he also gave us a dose of existential dread. Is it any wonder that some of us have grown up with a slight distrust for bald men with goatees? As an adult, I can applaud the creativity of a rhyming puzzle villain. But there's still the child in me that shudders hearing his threat. The puzzler will sort you.
Because if you can sort the puzzle out, the puzzle will sort you.
The collective relief when the Numberjacks finally burst his bubble, literally, and he exploded was immense. Until he inevitably returned what felt like the very next day for another round. Truly a persistent little bubble of terror. Conclusion, crowning the scariest meanie. We've explored the 5 notorious meanies of Numberjacks, the NumberTaker, Shape Japer, Problem Blob, Spooky Spoon and Puzzler, each brilliantly designed to unsettle and unnerve young viewers. It's frankly impressive, and oddly hilarious, that a kids show about maths managed to create villains that still give us goosebumps. But now, after revisiting our shared childhood trauma, it's finally time to crown the meanie that truly haunts our memories. The scariest meanie, the one responsible for countless nightmares, is, in my humble opinion, the NumberTaker. Why him? Amid a lineup of CGI creations and eccentric talking options, the NumberTaker stands apart as being disturbingly real. A silent humanoid figure, devoid of any emotion. It felt like he could suddenly appear in your world and snatch you away without so much as a word. That silence tapped into a primal childhood fear. One Reddit user perfectly captured this dread, recalling their terror simply because he would never say anything. His eerie quietness made him unpredictable, unfathomable, and infinitely more unsettling than any blobby monster or rhyming troublemaker. With the other villains, at least you had goofy voices or mischievous laughs to tap into their intentions. With NumberTaker, absolutely nothing. Just a vacant stare and a whirring vacuum, poised ominously, ready to suck up numbers or maybe even you. He wasn't just a character, he was a silent reminder that not everything in your world was safe. Bro didn't even need words to ruin your day. One fan summed it up brilliantly. Whilst the Shape Japer gave me trauma when I was younger, seeing the NumberTaker was like accidentally walking into the final boss room. In other words, the Shape Japer's chaos was just an unsettling warm-up act. The NumberTaker was the true master of childhood horror. Watching NumberTakers now that we're older, we can appreciate the creativity of the meanies. We can even chuckle at their sheer absurdity. Yet we still feel that familiar chill. It's a bizarrely wholesome trauma, a bond that unites our generation. Sure, Numberjacks taught us maths, but more memorably, it taught us the thrill of psychological horror. Something we can laugh about now, albeit a little nervously. So, here's to the meanies. NumberTaker, Shape Japer, Puzzler, Problem Blob, and Spooky Spoon. They twisted our childhood minds in delightfully horrifying ways. They scared us silly, and as for me, I wouldn't have it any other way. Because, after all, what's childhood without a few creatively terrifying nightmares? Sweet dreams, and keep an eye out for any suspiciously spooky spoons lurking in the dark. Thank you so much to my legendary channel members. Your amazing support means that I can keep making these crazy videos about obscure CBeebies programs from yesteryear. If you want to join these legends and get yourself in the end credits and see some exclusive Snipe Snap videos too, hit that join button below. Thank you so much for your support. I'm Snipe Snap, he's Lucky. Snipe, Snap, out.